Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers podcast. We thought we were getting a night off, but so much has happened today that I brought in a top squad to talk about it all. And back with us, I'm delighted to welcome William from Hands Across the Water podcast. William, good evening, mate. How are you?
Apart from Rangers, Stevie, I'm not too bad. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate you having me on again.
Do you know why you're here, William? Because nobody swears better than you with that accent. And talking about last night's game, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a few swear words.
Fucking shite. I'll start with that.
And there it is. Within a minute of time, Kenny, Davey, first of all, mate, how are you? You well?
I will be when I come off mute. Not really, but I'll say it's great to be here and all that kind of stuff. But I'd rather we were doing a special extra episode because of good news, not because of how crap we are.
Yeah, I think we both like that. Kenny, it was a difficult show last night. It turned out 17,000 were watching it live. The comments were so difficult to keep up with, and it was a nightmare of a show. I'm not going to say that I'm sorry, but it's difficult. It was so difficult. I came off that. I'm not sure I enjoyed it. I'm not sure that any of us, like me, neither me or you, enjoyed it. It's just, but what you're supposed to do in a situation like that?
Get on with it and get it finished as quickly as we could, mate. That's pretty much what we had to do. No, it wasn't nice. It was a tough gig, that one last night, but we got through it. So hopefully we can dissect a bit more tonight.
So it's been a busy day in Rangers land. It started off before most of us had even woken up with the Rangers Supporters Association. They released, I'm not going to say a statement as such, but it was on social media just at 7:25 this morning. They said it's our considered view that the current head coach should be relieved of his duties with immediate effect. The Rangers Supporters Association will always stand behind the team, but we also have a duty to speak up. Davey, before we kind of talk about Rangers Supporters Association statement as such, just to let that resonate a wee bit, what was your thoughts on last night?
God, how long have we got, Stevie? Last night was the night that's been coming for the last month, in all honesty. We saw yet again a team selected with absolutely no defensive shape. We saw a team selected that took no account of how good the opposition were. It's just this philosophy of I'll pick a team that in a system and a shape that I believe in, and it will win, no matter how good the players are that are actually in it. I don't know how many shots at goal we conceded, but if it wasn't for Jack Butland, it would have been 9 or 10. I would have thought. I read a stat today that we only won 12% of the headers we went for, which is an absolute disgrace. If we're building a team to win the SPL, then that stat should be 80%, not 10%. It was just a complete shambles. The players obviously don't believe in it. They chucked it. They downed tools. The sending off, I think, summed up exactly how much they downed tools. I'm in a way, I was sitting in the second half on my phone more than I was watching the television. That's how bad it was. I think the Supporters Association couldn't say anything else other than what they said today, because if they claim to speak for the support, then the support is actually, for once in its life, speaking with one voice right now, and that is that the manager absolutely has to go.
Yeah, he's done something remarkable, William, in a very short space of time, and that is unite the Rangers support that are wildly always more or less disagreeing on what day of the week it is, never mind anything else. What was your thoughts on last night, William, before we talk about the RSA a wee bit?
Well, I didn't go into it with much hope, Stevie. I think you highlighted one of my comments on the show you done just before the game. You and Kenny were on, and I said, look, all I want tonight is a decent performance that you can be half proud of, really, because the optimism wasn't great, but that might give us something to build on going into Sunday's match. We watched the match together over here. A load of us, 6 or 7 of us, always watch the games, and I said to the lads before I went into we called the wee Rangers shed, I was like, look, lads, as long as we last longer than 8 minutes this time, and it was just an off the mark joke, And in 8 minutes in the game, we were a goal down and a man down. And I'll tell you, I've never said the word embarrassed because I'll never be embarrassed of my football club, Glasgow Rangers. But I was very close to it, and I'll tell you, because I don't like saying that word. It's an off-the-cuff word that you can say, Stevie, you know what I mean? But I don't like saying that word because I would never be embarrassed. But when you're 6-0 down, you're watching that team, an absolute disgrace. There's just no leadership in that team. Russell Martin can kid himself after the fact if he wants to say, when he was asked the question, and he says, there is leaders, we just need to get it out of them. You don't get, if you're a leader, and that's the end of the day. You just come out and you're in the forefront. You don't need to fucking bait it out of them. Do you know what I mean? Or beg them or go around, who's going to be my leader? You know who the leaders are. Walter Smith knew who a leader was within 5 minutes, and he wouldn't have got through the door unless he was a leader. We've been letting lackluster players, the ones that have been there for a long time, the ones that have come in, and it's an absolute joke. Very disappointed in Russell Martin and the team, Stevie, and the goals were an absolute joke. And I would say it was Irish League standard defending, but I wouldn't put shame on the Irish League by actually calling it that. It was absolute disgrace. Goal after goal, just the likes of Antman, Stevie in the first goal. Doesn't sees the run, sees it, doesn't go for it. You've got young Lyle Cameron, who's meant to be a young Scottish player who's only coming in just to, you know what I mean, to come on a bit parts because these professional players are meant to take on the mantle. And you've got him pointing to Antman and going, go to him. He's seen it happening. He wouldn't do it. And then straight away, you're a goal down. Then we've seen the Orange thing. He chucked it for me. Just didn't want to be on the pitch. And from then on, guys, it was just an absolute embarrassing. Danilo for the third goal, I think it was, marking the biggest and tallest player in that Bruges side. And we've got Danilo. Where's your leaders on the pitch going, okay, you can do this zonal marking, but where's the likes of John Suter, who's meant to be your captain? He should be calling that out before it even comes in, going, whoa, he's on, you know what I mean? I'll take him. Fuck what Russell Martin says. This is Glasgow Rangers. We're getting embarrassed here. I'll take him. It doesn't happen. Stevie, you know what I mean? It's very embarrassing. I can see why the support are all together. You can't blame them. You've got Russell Martin coming out and saying things like, it's not the end of the world. Tell you one thing, it's the end of the world now. It's the end of the world for us, and it's the end of his time.
Yeah, I don't think too many would argue with that, Kenny. We spoke a lot about it last night. There's no need to go over it. I thought we did quite well. I said to you beforehand, we're going to need to discuss the game, going to need to discuss the points. And we lasted 7 minutes before you went, get them out, I've had enough. And then it was just 30 minutes of, well, basically get them out. The RSA spoke this morning. Davey says, you know, they couldn't really have said anything else. Were you surprised at all by the statement? I've got to admit, the RSA to me have always been one. I don't think they get enough credit really for being a voice in the support. What did you make of it?
No, I wasn't surprised at it at all. Actually, I've noticed over the last couple of years, David might agree with me here, that they became a wee bit more vocal again. Where they used to be really quite vocal when I was younger and right up to maybe about 10 years ago. But the last few years they have been quiet. But I've noticed they've really piped up. Was it Clement or Beale they did this with as well? They did exactly the same thing and just said no, that they want them to go. And if you're being simply honest about it, they're no different from 99.9% of the entire support here. I've never seen it like this, Stevie, and I don't know if Davey has, but I genuinely haven't, and certainly never this quickly. Where it's just to a man. Yeah. So I'm not surprised at it, to be honest with you, Stevie, because as I say, I've noticed just lately that they're getting their voice back, and it's good because when I was a kid, when I was younger, they were very, very vocal and very important to the supporters. So, yeah.
I'm taking from the guys that are on tonight, as unmute myself as well, that there's no issues with what the RSA said from anyone. We're all supportive of exactly what was said. That goes on then to round about 10 o'clock when, out of nowhere, Rangers' brief Sky Sports and Rangers Review that Russell Martin has full support from the boardroom, and that there is no issues regarding his job. Not exactly a vote of confidence, not a public vote of confidence, but more a, the press at this point would be circling. They would be asking for answers. They've came out and backed their man and doubled down. Davey, we're going to spend money in the next few days. Players are coming in. They are doubling down. I have said for a very long time, and I got shouted at a wee bit, but I've said for a very long time that this board will not react quickly emotionally. They will not react to fan pressure. This looks like, Davey, exactly how it's going to play out, because they are doubling down. I said today on Sky that I think it's misguided. I believe it is. I don't think they realise just how bad and how depth of the feeling is within the support.
You're probably right. And saying that, if I think back, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whenever it was when the takeover happened, we were actually quite happy that we were getting owners, getting a board of directors who were professional and detached, who would make business decisions, who would not be allowed to, their heart would roll their head. We were always saying that was the kind of leadership that we required. But the long and the short of it for me is that the board of directors and the owners are there to maximise the value of the company. That's what they exist to do. And what maximises the value of Rangers as a company, that has to be winning. It has to be winning games. It has to be winning trophies. It has to be packing Ibrox out. So what will losing Rangers do? It will do the absolute opposite. What you'll see is empty seats. You'll see European packages not getting taken up. You'll see prize money for Europe being less than it should be. You'll see prize money domestically being less than it should be. You'll see the share price going down. You'll see the company value going down. So if you want to be detached about the whole thing, that's good. But if you're detached about the whole thing, what you need to do is create a club that wins, because that's the one that will actually give you your investment back, if you like. So I think the owners are going to give them time, and I think they're wrong. And I think what will happen on Sunday, if things go the way, unfortunately, we think that they will go, is that they are going to hear loud and clear the depth of feeling amongst the fan base, amongst the people whose money that they rely on. And I hope we win. I hope to God we win. But if we don't, they're going to give that message loud and clear, and we'll see then if their long-term plan becomes a short-term one.
William, I suppose the fear has always been that we would double down and just try and see this through, because I can kind of understand the Americans' point of view, and here's what I'm about to say, and try and make sense with this, and you can tell me your thoughts on it. They are ostracised a wee bit. They're out of the loop. They're over in the other side of the Atlantic in America, and I think Andrew Kavanagh lives in San Fran. Parag's dealing with Leeds and everything else. They were probably briefed quite heavily on the fact that such a turnover needed to happen. It was going to be rocky at the start. So they're not living it. They're not breathing it every single day like we are. So they're a wee bit detached. So they were maybe looking the last few weeks and thinking, all right, okay, this isn't great, but we expect it because this is what we brief, and they're not in it. So they're not going to react to this. And when they're being briefed by Patrick Stewart, who's going to double down anyway, we know that it was his appointment, they're not maybe going to get the feeling of the support. Now, they arrive on Sunday, belt and braces, everybody's over for this one, including families and everything. There's a big contingent over. I don't think they'll be expecting exactly what's going to happen. The chanting last night from the away end will 100% happen at Ibrox Stadium on Sunday if this goes wrong. And I think they are a wee bit detached from the reality, which is why I used the word misguided this morning. Do you agree with that? Or what's your thoughts on it? You don't need to agree. What's your thoughts?
No, well, I'll tell you one thing, Stevie, they'll not be detached from it after Sunday, because they'll know exactly the fury of the fans. There's no doubt about it. And I understand what you're saying. But Stevie, another thing for me, mate, is the likes of the decision of, we had Robbie Fraser was a left back in our club, Yefty and Redvan. We had to play Orange at left back because he didn't trust any of those guys to play that position. So we knew that very early on, early doors. So we've known for quite a time that we've needed to sort that position out. This is just one thing out of many things that have been going wrong. But why? So we didn't do anything about that position. When at the 3 then eventually leave the club, we've brought a child in to play left back who's played a few games in the Champions League game that the 49ers are banking on because it's big money for Rangers Football Club. And that's who we've thrown in there. So the likes of the 49ers who say they're football men, they like football, they need to be asking the questions of going, right, this is our investment. Why is the likes of you, whoever's made those decisions, why have you allowed the likes of that happen? That's only one position. So what they're going to, and if they are detached, Stevie, they're going to have to come over and they're going to have major internal discussions of what's going wrong with our club, because there's so much going wrong. And as I say, they're going to find it out on Sunday. And you know what the Rangers fans are like. You know, we're all Rangers fans, and we know when we're peed off, we'll vent our fury, and that's what's going to happen on Sunday. And they need to look at just small decisions like that and going, why have we not prepared ourselves? We've had long time to get that sorted out. The likes of the situation, we spent 3.5 million on the young fella Fernandez. At the end of the day, last night the defending, as you know, was an absolute disgrace. But Russell Martin didn't feel like he could hook someone and put that guy on, because he obviously doesn't trust him enough to go in there and fill the void and try and, you know, stop what was happening. So why did we spend 3.5 million on him when we could have had Enciala there? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying he's a great player, but he doesn't look any better at the minute than what Fernandez does, and we could have spent that in maybe a different position. So what the 49ers need to be looking at, in my opinion, is looking at decisions like that and going, why is this happening? Why can't you trust that guy we've spent 3.5 million on? Why have you let us have a left back come in on loan who's played a few games to play in that position on such a key game? And whoever's making those decisions, Stevie, and I don't think it's Russell Martin when it comes to that I think it's more obviously the Patrick Stewart and Thelwell, obviously, I think they run the club that way and choose who's coming in. So the 49ers are going to have to stop being detached and start getting attached and looking at every single decision that happens at our club and seeing where it's going wrong. We had an internal review of Patrick Stewart. This was meant to see what all the holes were and what all the problems were. And it looks worse now than ever. And they need to be asking him the questions. You were there for months. You were there to check out what the issues were and to sort them out. Why is this club that we've invested in got even worse than what it did last season? And these are the questions they need to ask, and heads need to roll if things don't change very soon.
Kenny, do you think that they are detached into the fans' feelings and the way it is at the moment? William talked about Sunday there, and I suppose the catch-22 is that if they win, you know, they will see it. But if Rangers manage to get a victory on Sunday, they will think that we have overreacted and that everything's rosy, and they will then side Patrick Stewart's telling the truth and everything's okay. It's a difficult situation because every single one of us wants us and prays that we're going to win on Sunday. But do you think that there's a question mark, just the same thing I asked William, that the 49ers or Andrew Kavanagh, etc., don't realise what's actually going on? They are misguided, they are detached from the reality of the fans' feelings?
A tough question, but yeah, possibly because of the reasons you've given, that they're over in the States. Parag Marat's get plenty to do with other things with the 49ers and the Leeds. So, yeah, possibly. But the one person who isn't is Patrick Stewart. And that briefing today, that shows weakness in my eyes. Actually, that shows you a weak leader who isn't prepared to deal with this. And I'll give you a quick example, and it's Russell Martin himself. And it's barely over a year ago when he was 5-0 down at half-time against Spurs when he was a manager of Southampton. And at half-time, he told his own players, I'm going to get sacked. So do me a favour and go out and play this half for me. And he gets sacked at full time. Now, if it's good enough for Southampton, or bad enough as it is for Southampton to look at and say that's not acceptable, what makes anybody think it's acceptable for Rangers? I'm sorry, I just don't understand it. That was the worst performance I've ever seen in my lifetime last night. That is compounded by the fact that we're getting worse every week. There is no shape or style. There is no logic to our recruitment, as Williams alluded to. We're sitting here 4 days before the end of this transfer window, Stevie, and the spine's still exactly the same. Now, William was on last week and mentioned that about the spine of the team, and that's the issue that more than anything else for me is where if the owners are detached, Stevie, then that's a major worry, because they're going to have to get themselves embroiled in what is going on here, because we're about to go into meltdown. I'll be 100% honest, and I never like saying stuff like this, but we're not going to win that game on Sunday. I just don't think we're good enough or in any way capable of turning up and performing. We see how weak they are. They are as weak as a Rangers team, as the weakest Rangers team I think I've ever seen. So we're not going to get a result. So they are going to get a wake-up call on Sunday, I think, sad as that is, but I think they will. And they did say to us, Stevie, I said last night, they did say to us that you won't hear from us very often, but you'll hear from us when you need to. Well, we already need to. We need to before this game. So that's the worry. But the question you're asking me, Steve, is quite a difficult one to answer, because they're the only ones that can really tell you that, whether they're kind of really, as you say, ostracized from it. But it appears that way.
We'll find out on Sunday, that's for sure, because if it does go the way that we all fear, then they're going to hear about it. From there, something quite surprising happened. The Rangers Fan Advisory Board released a statement. It was surprising to me, but I'll read it out first and I'll explain it in a minute. We share the anger and frustration of our fellow supporters following the debacle in Bruges, which is the latest in a line of unacceptable results and performances under the tenure of Russell Martin. Even this early, and it is clear to see he is failing to build a Rangers team which would recognise as authentic, with a squad that is lacking in fundamentals any supporter has a right to expect: organisation, physicality, hunger and desire, as well as enterprise and endeavour at both ends of the park. This is in stark contrast to the football philosophy we were promised: dominant football, aggressive pressing and relentless work off the ball, none of which has materialised. Irrespective of the result on Sunday, it is clear to us the manager should be replaced as a matter of urgency before our justified anger gives way to apathy. We appreciate the size of the task the manager took on and the number of new players introduced in the summer, but Rangers is about winning consistently, and we are not doing that often enough, nor showing credible signs it will change anytime soon. Whilst we appreciate the significant amount of change required at the club, the board must commit to a new manager who understands and accepts the standards that have been set by our successful teams in the past and can deliver on them. Kenny, that's Davey, that's very hard hitting. I was surprised. This is the Fan Advisory Board are a fantastic group of guys. I know a few of them. We've done podcasts with them before, and they're Rangers fans at heart. They've travelled to games for years and years, but perhaps with the closeness to the board and being Fan Advisory Board, I wasn't sure they would speak out even this early. I thought these things might have came possibly even next week after Sunday. I was surprised by that, but it's welcomed. Fan Advisory Board should speak for us as supporters, and I think that, although not everyone, because we cannot judge that, judging by the reaction of the away support and everything else last night and the RSA's earlier statement, they've kind of hit the button with this.
Yeah, I'm a bit like yourself. We see minutes of meetings with the Fans Advisory Board with the board, and it's obvious that they're someone that the board actually has got a relationship with and listened to. And they haven't waited for a meeting. They haven't waited to go and actually talk to them. They've obviously been as angry as everyone else and put a statement out today. And when you read through what they're saying, it's absolutely spot on. The style of play, the whole thing about what Rangers should be, it jumps out to me. The bit about not just about winning, but obviously, but the stuff about dominating, and the stuff about leadership, and the stuff about physicality, and the stuff, all the things that this team doesn't have. I mean, I got a text from my son this morning, and he said in his text, has Carlos Pena got a Joe Rothwell mask on? It's a joke I've never heard before, but when I think about it, it's just somebody that looks completely unfit, somebody that looks unprepared, somebody that looks like he's not getting coached, and it's just stuff in there because he's one of the manager's favourite players. And it's almost like a sign of just how far removed we are from being a good football team. It wouldn't surprise me after Sunday if Russell Martin doesn't get sacked that there will be more statements from more different organisations, because the fans are speaking as one. And even if we do win on Sunday, it's just going to be a stay execution, because he's not going to change. He's not going to change this approach that he's got. He's going to continually ignore how important defence is. He's going to continually ignore the fact that we play teams sometimes that are going to be able to attack us. He's going to have this laptop clipboard mentality of football manager type approach that my way is going to win no matter what the opposition is going to be, and it's not going to work. It's simply not going to work. If you manage to persuade the top brass that it was going to work, surely to God, by now they have seen that they have bought a pig in a poke, and doing a sort of Blackadder and sticking pencils up your nose and just saying it's not, reality is not real. It's not going to work. The fans are not going to take it. The sponsors aren't going to take it. The players aren't going to take it. I think we'll see an exodus in the next few days unless something changes. The whole thing's a shambles.
We'll come to that. There's undoubtedly going to be players going. I would just like to say, for record, William, I would take a pissed Carlos Pena, and half the time he was pissed, ahead of half of this team at this moment in time. I would have taken a pissed Carlos Pena last night, and he would have been better than half this team. William, what do you make of that statement? I've got to be honest, I completely applaud the fan advisory board. It's never difficult. It is always difficult to put yourself out there, to put yourself in these positions. But that was a statement that, even if it might have been earlier than I expected, for me, it was bang on the money.
Yeah, Stevie, definitely. It's one of those statements where you're nodding your head in an agreement from the start to the finish, unfortunately. And you don't want to have to agree to these things, but at the end of the day, it is a shambles. And the fans advisory board, like you've just said, Stevie, are like us, Rangers diehards who, love the club, see what's going on, and aren't stupid to see when the wool's being pulled across their eyes. It's like we've had, as a support, we've been seeing a very poor pre-season, in my opinion, against the teams we were playing, even the backdoors games. A poor start to the season then domestically. An Alloa team who, let's face it, last 10 minutes, it looked like they were still in the game, and I was sort of wondering, you're seeing Connor Salmon, a player that I'd actually forgot about until I seen him coming on. Because he's still playing. Connor Salmon's still playing with me. Let's see how he gets on. And even he got the run on our defenders. That shows you how pathetic it is. So this team of ours that is going to be all attack, all giving everything, as Kevin Thelwell told us, and Russell Martin himself, the outstanding candidate, as Kevin Thelwell called him, the outstanding candidate that needed 7 interviews to convince them that he was the man. That tells you a lot, doesn't it? And you can understand why they put in. I agree with him, Stevie, 100%. And it's sad that it's come to this so early, but it has. And gaslighting the support as well, in my opinion, Stevie. I think the question was asked after the game in the press conference to Russell Martin, and basically I think the interviewer asked him, one of the guys, the question was something along the lines of, if this continues, do you think your position is untenable, along those lines? And the guy, this is how you know he doesn't get it, because he goes, if what continues, we'll not lose 6 again. And I'm thinking, no, mate, it's not about losing 6 again. It's about the league games.
Is he just on that? Remember last week when he says we'll not concede goals as bad as that again? And then
exactly. And then we do. So he doesn't get it, Stevie. And his answer to the question was simply, he threw the question back, but then went to answer it. He goes, we'll see what again? We'll not lose 6 again. And I'm thinking, no, mate, That's not the question he's asking you. He's asking you, you haven't won a game in the league. You were poor in all the games in Europe. We scraped through by the skin of our teeth, by luck and by Butland and by Gassama, who's a new player who scored a couple of individual brilliant goals. And see, when he's answering questions like that, Stevie, I'm thinking, he just doesn't understand it, doesn't get it, won't ever get it. If you don't get it now, you have no chance. And as I say, when I mentioned it earlier, when you're saying to people, it's not the end of the world, I'll tell you one thing. See, after a poor result, if I turned around to my dad and I watch the games with him and I says, look, Dad, it's not the end of the world, I'd say he would shake me up big time and he'd be right to do it. He just doesn't get it. And the fan advisory board were correct in what they said today.
Kenny, were you surprised at how early it came from Fab, the statement, and what did you make of it?
I think it's a terrific statement, actually. It's as good as you'll get. And it's very impactful. It's very forceful. And it kind of leaves no room for manoeuvre. They're get him out. They are literally saying his time is up, which is, bearing in mind that our board has made great ways to make sure that we have this fan advisory board, and that they will take what they say and you know, try to understand it as best they can and get that link between fans and, you know, and the football club itself. Well, it doesn't get any more in your face than that statement today, because as for me personally, it's left no stone unturned. I don't know who wrote it. I've got a funny feeling I know who wrote it, but it was fantastically written, and just, as I say, very impactful. Was a surprise that it's this early. No, actually, I'm not. I think this all comes down to the actual situation that we're all finding ourselves in, lads, because it is just a universal feeling at the minute. I've never known anything like it. Keep saying this and you keep repeating yourself, but I haven't. So am I surprised it's this early? No, because if you're being honest, I mean, Davey there's been saying for the past three weeks that this isn't going to work. At least 3 weeks. And put it this way, not convinced in any way. You know, other people are trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and stuff like that, but nobody wants this guy here anymore, Stevie. So the more that weighed in, the more impactful it's going to be. And fair play to the advisory board, because I think they did. That's a wonderful statement, and it's very, as I say, more than anything else, it leaves you kind of with it. So hopefully it leaves the board with a little bit of, you know, thinking to do.
William, with a very kind donation to the channel. What would be more dangerous, winning Sunday and keeping Russell Martin on losing on Sunday and replacing him? I want Rangers to win every single game, especially against Celtic. With all due respect to them, they are a good side, and I understand that. But we've got to beat them, especially at home, anywhere really. I want to beat them at Tiddlywinks. Davey, I don't think it's a question you can really answer, because I understand the feeling behind it. People saying, well, if we get a scalping on Sunday or this comes along, then, you know, great, because the outcome of that will be Russell Martin goes. I don't think there's any possibility, or sorry, not any possibility. I don't think there's any guarantee that would happen. So we've got to just hope and somehow hope that this Rangers team bring it all together. But I certainly, you know, as much as I understand the question and it's a bit of a conundrum, I get it. I want Rangers to win with every, you know, bone in my body.
Absolutely. The day I want Rangers to lose any game is the day that I think I stop. But and as for playing against Celtic, anybody that seriously thinks it would be better if Celtic beat Rangers, then I think they should have a long, hard look in the mirror and just ask what their priorities are. The long and the short of it, Stevie, is that, of course, we want us to win on Sunday. I hope to God to do win on Sunday. But another doing's just round the corner off somebody. It'll just come at some point. Hope to God it's not Sunday, but we will play somebody else at some point who will give us another doing if we keep doing what we're doing just now. Whether that's the first Europa League game, whoever it is we play in that, whether that's the cup tie against Hibs, I don't know who it will be, but someday with decent forwards with physicality in the middle will do us, because we have got a team that's wide open through the middle, that can't defend, who have got players that are soft as shit, if you'll pardon the expression. No leaders, no players that hate losing. They've got all the things that good Rangers teams have got. They've basically got none of it. And not only have they got none of it, it doesn't look as if the head coach puts priority in having it. So I'm not expecting to see experienced leaders coming in. I'm not expecting to see bad losers coming in. I'm expecting to see more flipping project players who might be worth money in 3 years' time, which is completely the wrong way of looking at things. They'll only be worth money in 3 years' time if we win stuff. If you've got project players, what you do is you integrate them into a team that's winning. You don't expect them to become a winning team. So do I want Rangers to win on Sunday? You're bloody right I do. Do I expect them to? Unfortunately not. And if they don't, it's surely the end. But if we do win, the end will come, but I just don't know when it will come.
Thank you, William, for the donation and the question. William, there's been a lot said on this, comments, and Kenny and I spoke about it last night. If the worst does happen, and it is a worst case scenario that we have to bullet the head coach and go and look about it, because none of us wanted this when he came in what seemed like a fortnight ago, but is it only 84 days? It hasn't been great. If we have to go and do that, the buck really doesn't stop, though, with Russell Martin, because every single supporter more or less unanimously warned that this would happen, said we didn't want him, and said that, you know, this is the biggest fear. And it was not against Russell Martin, it was just a fear of his style. How has he managed to get through all those interviews? We know that he went through 7 interviews. He interviewed with Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell. He interviewed with Andrew Kavanagh, Parag Marathi. They interviewed everywhere, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. The buck surely doesn't stop with just Russell Martin, who put him in that position, who made those final decisions. Patrick Stewart, for me, has now made the criminal mistake of backing Philippe Clement and ditching him a week later. He threw the fans under the bus with the tifo, and now this. I don't think Patrick Stewart should be missed in the middle of all this. Kevin Thelwell, I can kind of understand a wee bit, is just in the door. But in 6 months' time, if this team is still failing under, you know, and those players still aren't performing, then the spotlight's right on him immediately. But Patrick Stewart's been about long enough to understand this football club and understand the demands and what's been capable. Even if it's not Patrick Stewart for you, for me, the buck definitely doesn't stand or doesn't stop with Russell Martin, and Rangers need to be looking a bit deeper into how these things were allowed to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Stevie. This is what I'm saying. Patrick Stewart and his internal review, how many months was he there? And he was basically in there to see where's the club failing, where's it failed in the past, and what kind of players have they brought in that hasn't worked in the past. You're thinking of players like Silva. I think he's went to Dortmund for 26 million or something. He's going for a big sign. Yeah, he'll be a great player. Tillman, yeah, another, you know, he was okay for us. He wasn't magnificent, but he's gone on to have a great career now. So looking at an internal review, the first thing you think is, right, stop getting these Premier League prima donnas who might come good in 2 or 3 years, but aren't good enough to play for Rangers right now because we need winners. And again, we've went out in the same transfer policy. We brought in young kids again from loan who, likes of even Mikey Moore, I'm not saying much about him either. He may come good and it may be okay for us. He may be a superstar for England in the future, but he's not going to be amazing for us and win us a league title. The kind of leaders that we need right now, as Davey alluded to earlier there. So again, with his internal review, he's got it totally wrong. Kevin Thelwell, his words, the outstanding candidate, and he needs to be asked, if Russell Martin was your outstanding candidate, how can we trust you to pick the next one after Russell Martin goes? Because obviously your thought process isn't good for me. Russell Martin, as you say, Stevie, he isn't the only one And the problem that worries me is if you get rid of Russell Martin, are the players you even have good enough? Davey says there earlier, 88% of headers, we lost 88% of them. For a Scottish team, that is what Scottish football is all about. That's your bread and butter. You win your aerial duels, and we won 12% of them. What is the transfer policy if you can't get that basic thing right? I made a comment, if you remember, about Gogic. I says a bog standard Scottish player was going to bully us in our box and bully us in his box, and that's exactly what happened. Mickey Moore came on, Gogic hit him once, boom. Mickey Moore didn't want to play again because he was like, I'm out. That was too rough for me. And we're signing the wrong players time and time again. So I think Russell Martin will go pretty soon, in my opinion. But no matter who you bring in, Stevie, have we got the squad to actually match it in this league? But the first thing I would do is just get someone in who can make it simple, because these guys can't play whatever Russell Martin wants them to play. They don't have the ability to do it. It's simple. So just make the game as simplified as you can and just trundle on to the next window. And hopefully by then, we'll have looked at our transfer policy, and the 49ers and everybody in the club can put their hands up and say, okay, we underestimated the Scottish League. We come in there with our heads a wee bit high thinking this was going to be easy. We understand it's not. We understand the kind of players we need to win in this league. We made a fuck up and we're going to work it out. If that happens, fair play. But if they get another guy in and continue with the same young players at left back and coming in on loan to here for a season and having 3 players in your starting team playing a Champions League qualifier who are all loan players, if that's a transfer policy, it's not going to get any better any quick.
I remember loan players used to be signed to beef up your squad, Kenny. That's probably how old we are. And they used to be backups, or you would get a young, exciting guy like once, and they would be, kind of your wild card, like Vladimir Weiss was, so to speak. We're signing them now to be our first team players. Somebody that is coming, judging by reports, reported today earlier on by Sky, that Bojan Majowski is a done deal, 2.6 million, rising to 4.2 million, expected to be in the country over the weekend to complete this Rangers deal. Here is the really difficult thing for me. I'm not sure how good he's going to be in this team, because our nines are obsolete anyway, and I really don't. I don't know how this is going to work out. I'm struggling to be excited about a guy in this formation. You've seen what's happened to Ant-Man and even Gassama to an extent that they've kind of been shell shocked and their performances have way been down. Everybody in the comments all summer, go and sign Bojan Majowski, go and sign Bojan Majowski. Everybody's been saying it. 2.6 million is a hell of a deal for him as well, rising potentially. But it just feels flat. I'm really sorry to say that, everybody, but to me, it just feels flat. And I can only be honest that I don't think he'll make a difference in this setup. I'm very negative feeling at the moment. I haven't watched it last night, and this is how easy probably I change or whatever. On Tuesday night, I said I wouldn't bin him yet. I need to see how it's going, and we need to wait and see. And then we looked at it on Wednesday night, and it was reality hammer hitting that this is never ever going to work. I'm not sure that Majowski changes that. What we do have maybe is Gassama, Majowski, and an Ant-Man for somebody else as manager who might be able to make them worthwhile. And I'm sorry if that's really negative. He might be, listen, I really want him to come in and be the missing link, Kenny. He's got pace, he can score goals, I get it. I'm just struggling a wee bit to see the positives in what is a bit of a shit show at this very moment.
You, me, and the rest of the Rangers supporters, it's exactly how we feel. The problem I have with Majowski's a cracking player. We've talked about him before. Good striker, fantastic finisher, good, striker of the ball. Gets himself into decent positions and stuff like that. It's the getting himself into position that he's going to struggle with the way we're playing, because when I seen him at Aberdeen, he was a guy that ran on. You'd play the ball through to him, he'd be able to run through. Well, we're playing this low block every week that Aberdeen, as far as I'm aware, don't play very often. So that's where he's going to find it difficult. But no more difficult than any of the rest of their number nines, because we can't get them into the game. You're seeing, even Danilo last night was coming way back 35 yards from his own goal to get involved at one point in the first half, and you're like, well, this is just mental. It's absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, it's a good deal for us. Again, this is the thing that, you know, William was talking there about the recruitment policy and Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin, and that's the thing, that the review was done, and we were told that we were going to change the way we play our football, and it was going to be dominant style and stuff like that. And he was the prime candidate, the number one candidate for this. So if they sack him, for talking's sake, they're going to bring somebody similar in. That's the kind of thing that is kind of concerning me. That's exactly what they're going to do. They have decided as a board here that that's what they're going to do. This is the way we are going to play. We are going to change it. And I think it was Johnny McFarlane that coined this today, and I haven't heard it before. It was the Poundland Pep type of manager. He was talking about Grimsby last night beating Man United as well. And Annarim being the same kind of guy, same kind of thought process, same kind of system. And that's where I have both concerns, and it puts me slightly at ease. If he does go, I think there's a number of candidates that could do a better job in a similar type of system. And I'm presuming that these players are being signed for the football club and not necessarily for the manager, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, good signing, but maybe not under this manager, is what I'd say.
I would go as far as to say that I could arrange this team better, Kenny, in this through 20 years of sitting on my couch playing Football Manager, because we just look completely disheveled as a football club, that's for sure. Davey, we are linked with more players. All the word seems to be that we could sign 3 or 4 before this window closes. That is doubling down for me. That is a sign of these players aren't coming for a manager that's just about to be bulleted, and they're not going anywhere else. We are linked with a move for Yusuf Shermeti, the Everton striker, who's scored a whopping 0 goals in 22 games, I think, for Everton. Another loan. It doesn't excite me. Kevin Thelwell bought him for £10 million in 2023. I'm sorry. Like I'm struggling a wee bit with this one. And Bojan Majowski, by the way, was good in this league. Does know the league. There is positives there. At some point or other, somebody's going to need to persuade me about this guy if it's true and if it's happening. I suppose the plus point is, you know, if there is 3 or 4 coming in, 4 or 5, whatever it is, maybe at some point somebody might go, do you know, lads, it might be a good idea to buy a centre back in one of them. So there is fingers crossed for that. But we are being linked with another loan player. It's not great.
It's just remarkably lazy for me. That if Kevin Thelwell's idea of what we need up front is some reject at Everton that he knows, who hasn't scored a goal for over a year, and who couldn't get anywhere near an Everton team who were absolutely hopeless until they changed their manager. No, it's just entirely the wrong strategy. If I can go back to Majowski just for a little minute, I'm going to upset everyone in the comments, and probably you 3 as well, by saying this. But see a front 3 with Gassam on one side, Ant-Man or Curtis on one side, and Majowski through the middle. See that front 3. If a manager with the approach of Postecoglou was in charge of Rangers, they would run riot up here. I hate saying that, but somebody who really does properly go for it, somebody who gets wingers up, hits the byline, gets the ball across the byline, and has a centre forward in the box, a winger in the back post, they 3 would run riot. For me, it's the approach of the manager that needs to change before a lot of these players will see if they're successful or not. So, but anyway, that's because I hate praising somebody like Postecoglou, but I think the way he approached it at Celtic is actually the way whoever replaces Russell Martin needs to approach it at Rangers. but not with Everton centre forwards who can't score, and not with centre halves that can't defend, and not with 84 passes across the middle until you give the ball away. It will never work that way.
But apart from that, it's all right, Davey. You know what I mean? At least Jack Butland has found his hands again, by Christ, because see, if he hadn't, we would have conceded 20 against Bruges without a doubt, William, which makes the link even stranger to Meslier of Leeds United. Again, another apparent loan move. Oh man, if you thought I was depressed about the Everton boy and not really grabbing Majowski that much or having reservations, this goalkeeper, I mean, at least it would be exciting, not from a safe point of view, but from the point of view that he loves chucking them in as well. I mean, I hope that it's not true. By the way, Jack Butland deserves a hell of a lot of credit, because see, if it wasn't for him, wouldn't have beat Panathinaikos, wouldn't have beat Pilsen, and we would have conceded 20 against Bruges. Some of his saves last night were outstanding. The one that he gets the fingertips to that hits the bar, the one in the top left, and just all-round best performance. He's been our player of the season so far. As ridiculous as it sounds, only 10 games in or whatever, I understand that. It would be madness to replace him with somebody else at this moment in time. Long running, I think maybe fine. But if Jack is getting his form back, replacing him with this boy, would probably sum us up, in all honesty, of the last few weeks. But I do not want him anywhere near Rangers. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Barry, who you know, the big bro, he's a wee leaning the Leeds. He was on the phone to me today, and he was cracking up. He was like, "This guy is useless," and he told me all about him. I don't know much about him, but Barry, he was not having it straight off. He was like, "This would be a disaster." So hope it doesn't happen. But as you say, when you've got one man that I would say in most performances, he's the only player we can normally let off the hook, which has been Jack Butland. It wouldn't surprise me if Russell Martin thinks that's the one we'll hook, that's the one we'll get rid of, and bring in another loan player. But one thing I'll ask you, Stevie, as well, see with the amount of loans that we're bringing in, does that not sort of lead you to believe that does Thelwell and the ownership of the club actually trust Martin that much? Because none of these players are going to be here next season. It's as if the try before you buy, see how everybody gets on, and sure, don't worry, if we've the start again all next season, most of them will be going anyway because they won't be our official players. So if they can't even trust the guy by giving them proper leaders in each position, that tells you a lot, in my opinion.
I think we could be heading towards maximising 6 loans, which at the start of the window, I would have said to everybody, a couple of loans is maybe necessary given the extent of what we're trying to do. And the turnover that's needed. 6 is really difficult to justify. 6 coming straight into the team would be even worse. We'll need to wait and see what happens towards the end of this window, folks. But I think we'll wrap it up there. We have been on 50 odd minutes. I want to say a huge thank you to William once again from the Hands Across the Water team. They are a fantastic podcast. We will put their links in the description if everybody can pop over and have a look and sub to their site. That would be wonderful. They are trying to grow with a fantastic following on Facebook and stuff like that as well. So, William, thank you, mate. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for coming on. And I can't wait for the day that we're all on together actually smiling. It might take a wee while, but it'll happen. It'll happen at some point. But thanks again for having me on. And Davey, first time I've ever been on with you, mate, but I've watched your stuff for a long time. You're always great. Been great chatting with you as well, mate.
I like him.
It's all right, Davey. We'll invite him back. But thank you, mate. I really appreciate you coming on, Davey. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. My pleasure. If only we were, as I said earlier, putting an extra show in this week for something that was actually more positive. But I think the support out there are wanting to talk about this and wanting to listen to this, and I think this is the big subject. So I think we were quite right to go on tonight. But I just hope if I'm on again on Monday night, I'm just hoping I'm talking about an unexpected victory, and then we can sort the Russell Martin stuff out after that.
Yeah, that would. I may even break out into a brief smile if that was to happen on Sunday. Kenny, thank you, mate. My long-suffering co-host. Last night was difficult. Tonight, I suppose in a way it is therapy for some people. I think there was so much to talk about today. There was so many messages, RU's going on live. There's 5,000 sitting watching us last night. Sorry, at this moment in time. So the support is incredible, but I really appreciate you being on again. Much appreciated, mate.
Aye, well, I'm taking tomorrow off, mate. I'm knackered. Listen, talking about Jack Butland, I've kind of just came to the conclusion there that Jack Butland will be our player. He has been fantastic, and particularly when you consider this formation that we're playing, which I believe is a 0-2-8 or something like that, because we don't seem to have a defence. We seem to just have two guys standing in a halfway line, all of them waiting to get sent off all the time. Mark my words, if we keep playing this way, we're going to get about a dozen red cards. You cannot do this. We've seen it twice already, and I promise you, every 3 or 4 games, we're going to end up with a red card. So, cheer up.
So what somebody said to me today, they said, see, with our defensive line so high, wonder what happened when Martin Boyle gets a hold of us for Hibs. And it was like a dagger to the heart as I just went, oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah. And that's Martin Boyle of Hibs. Folks, thanks for joining us. It's been another great discussion, I think, in difficult circumstances. So many of you out there supporting the pod, which we really appreciate. Please like and subscribe on YouTube if you can. We are fast approaching 10,000 subs. I think we gained about 250 from last night alone, which is incredible following. And we really appreciate all your support, especially YouTube members, everybody that gets involved, and everybody that supports the pod that way. We really, really appreciate it. Personally, thank you to everybody that messaged today after going on Sky Sports. It was really difficult. That's live, and trying to come across as not somebody ranting and raving. I didn't think it was right to do that. I think the message was quite clear from the away support last night and from the statements already that, the support have spoken. So I hope that, in a weird way, although I don't represent everybody, I hope that Rangers fans watched it and at least thought that I spoke well, and that's all I tried to do. So hopefully that's the case, folks. Really appreciate you joining us. We'll probably be back tomorrow night, because in Rangers land, there's never really a quiet day, is there? So we should be back about 7 p.m. as usual, and we'll be on. I think Calvin's on, and we'll see who else. I think Andrew's on as well, so we'll see who else is about. And that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning. Really, really fantastic support of all the guys, Jim, Ian, and everybody over there with Carlo. We really, really appreciate it. And Ian, 2 Ians. Really, really thank you very much. And our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you again tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we might just get a normal Rangers day. I won't hold my breath. Take care.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.